Sure, so we can go ahead and get started. I'll take a roll call to begin with. Commissioner Brown Sparks.
Here.
Commissioner Michaelick.
Here.
Commissioner Carey.
Here.
Commissioner Ford. Here. Commissioner Miller.
Present.
Commissioner Mann. Okay, and is anyone taking notes this time, or do we need to do that? Oh, yeah, it says that's next on the list. Election of new co-chair, chairs, and selection of member to keep minutes.
I'm happy to keep notes.
Okay.
I was in touch with Commissioner Mann ahead of what was supposed to be the June 28th meeting. I don't think he had the May 24th minutes ready yet. He may now have them ready, but he hasn't sent them to me, so that those will roll over to the next month. For today's meeting, I'm happy to keep the memo
Okay.
and that in next month's packet.
So, starting with the election of new chair and co-chairs, should we start by maybe going around or just asking if anyone is interested in those positions, or should we go one at a time? What do you guys think feels best?
Is anybody interested? And I can do it this time around. It's fine. I don't want to like step on any toes, but I can do it this time.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Nobody else is okay.
Yes.
So, and before we had two co-chairs,
Mhm.
so I think that was how we said we would prefer it to be. So is anyone interested in serving as co-chair as well as Commissioner Carey?
So how would the co-chairs operate? Because that was before I joined.
Yeah, the way that we have done it in the past is just like even Steven. So just kind of make sure things get done. So that might mean, like in our case, it meant that Commissioner Brown Sparks helped more with some of the back end of things, and I led the meetings. You know, which is whatever people want to do. It's up to you, really.
But I will say that I'm horrible at backing things, but I'm good at talking.
Oh, I'm great at backing up, so I would be willing to be a backup
That might be a
co-chair.
match made in heaven.
Right.
And if it comes time to present, I can also do that.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay,
It's really
okay.
just approving the agenda because Stephen has had the time and the generosity to be mostly doing that. And so we just basically just need someone to approve it and, make sure anything is added to it.
Okay. It doesn't get missed.
It doesn't get missed, yeah.
All right, it's a partnership for these.
Awesome.
Okay, and, so that's easy. Any comments on that before we take a vote? Any comments? Comments, questions, concerns?
None for me.
I think you guys would be great.
Yes.
Okay, then we'll take a roll call vote on electing our new co-chairs, Commissioner Michaelick and Commissioner Carey. And they will serve 3-month terms. And so let's take the vote. I'll go first. No, I can go last. Commissioner Michaelick,
Approved. Yes.
Commissioner Brown Sparks,
I vote yes.
Commissioner Carey,
Yes.
Commissioner Routsong, I vote yes. Commissioner Ford? Yes. Commissioner Miller?
Yes, and thank you. Did we ever vote to do the every 3 months? I think we had to cancel that meeting, didn't we?
That's on today's agenda under
Okay,
unfinished
okay.
business. There's proposed language.
Gotcha,
You
okay.
all can still do that by practice, but if you want to make it a standing rule, there's language prepared to do that.
Excellent. Still, yes.
Okay, and I guess last time we did this we kind of abruptly handed over mid-meeting to the new co-chairs, so if you guys want to do that, we can do that again, otherwise I'm comfortable.
Welcome.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's good. Just jump right into it.
All right.
All right, so, so the next agenda is, so are we skipping past, just to clarify, the approval of the minutes because we don't have those present, right?
Correct. I believe Commissioner Mann had taken minutes May 24th. I didn't receive those from him, so we'll include those in the next meeting packet for approval, along with today's.
So do we need to vote to move that to the next
Just,
meeting?
I would just move to the next
Okay.
agenda item.
Okay, so, reports, from the chairs. I know that you just passed the baton over, but do you have any reports? that we
I
need to
don't.
go to? Okay.
I don't have any reports.
I keep forgetting.
I'm not sure. I guess because Steven sent the email out to the commission as a whole, from the health department, about us working with them. And I responded to it and decided to network with Melanie, that we're going to be able to have access to their research about certain things that will affect the community advisory on public safety. They want to do things dealing with like harm reduction and social justice and issues like that. And I found that there were different working groups that we might be able to work with that go along with our mission for the community advisory on public safety. So I took the initiative and reached out to her and have we've been in contact already.
You said that was the health department?
Yes, it's with the new CHIP program. Just a minute.
Community Health Improvement Plan.
Yeah, I was trying to find the email that you sent, but I couldn't pull it up.
This is the email I shared with, I believe I shared with all of you last Tuesday, June 28th.
Yes.
For Melanie Veslich, who said reaching out to her directly if you have any questions would be perfectly fine. So
Commissioner Brown Sparks, which working groups or committees did you feel that she might best be pointed in the direction towards?
I would have to pull it all up, and I can't pull it all up right now, but there were several groups that went along with things that we were talking about dealing with in reparations, and that went with something that we were discussing for our signature project that could go along with that.
Like an alternative policing program?
Yes.
We got it on June 28th.
I'll re-forward it to you.
And also, let me think here. Something that I wanted to say in regards to, okay, so they are actually having, I believe, an event in Falcon Square Mall sometime this month about the CHIPS program.
Yes, they're having an event to open to kick it off.
Do you remember that date? I know is it next week sometime?
I thought it was this week. I'm not. Just a second.
I mean, if you all have time, I'm gonna have a friend of mine who's actually gonna be working that event bring back some information to me.
What is the event?
It's the CHIPS for the new CHIPS program. It's like the kickoff event they're gonna have.
Could you explain it a little?
Oh, sorry. So I know just a little bit about it. I know that they want to get the word out to the community. So they're just doing an event. I'm not sure what the event is going to entail quite yet. But I was going to try and go check it out because I was very curious to know what this program is about. And you heard of CHIPS because if I'm not mistaken, it's somehow associated with the Medicaid program.
Yeah.
Okay. So like, I'm interested to see how they are going to introduce this program to the community or what they're going to be doing. So, I mean, I had that event at the top of my brain. I seen it on the calendar today, so.
It's in the email. I
Oh, it
forwarded to
is?
you all.
Okay,
So
perfect.
there's information about the kickoff meeting, about what the
Okay, so it is July 14th. Okay.
Thank you, Steve.
July 14th.
At noon, yeah.
Yes. And then information about the chip, noon to 1 with time after for networking is what the email says. At the Fountain Square Ballroom. It's got information about the chip program itself.
And they will be having stuff so that if people aren't able to attend in person, or if they're immunocompromised, they'll also be able to do it virtually.
Good. That's good.
So just my own suggestion, if folks do attend this, if there are ideas, things you learn that you can bring back to the commission, always be thinking about, are there things you all can recommend that the city do to help improve public safety through this lens of public health.
Yes.
So certainly if there are actions that folks think the city can take, just a heads up, I'll be mentioning this more when we get to the annual report. The city's budget process preparations are underway. So there are recommendations that you all want to bring forward, including the annual report, which I know there's, that's planned for July 20th. But even after that, if there are recommendations you'd like to forward to the council, the mayor, you're welcome to do that really at any point. So I just wanted to kind of frame it that way.
Okay. The committees, so the conflict resolution committee, do you all have anything to report?
I believe that was something that was set aside
Oh, yes.
until the annual report was presented.
Yes, okay. Recalling that, reparations and atonement. I know that the last time that we departed, we were trying to figure out where that, or was that still conflict resolution?
Excuse me?
Was it conflict resolutions or was it the reparations and atonement that we were trying to figure out if we were going to keep the committee? Had you all made a decision on that?
Yeah, that was
Okay.
conflict resolution.
Alternatives to.
That was more of an ad hoc thing, and we were just working through things.
Okay. So reparations and atonement, do you all have anything to report?
Not at this time. I'm working with other groups to try and do networking.
Thank you for your ongoing work in that regard, Commissioner Brown.
And for the research committee, I know that we have things to report or at least to show the commission.
Yeah.
Pull that up now.
Yes. Did we want to touch on anything else before the report?
Now unless anybody else would like to touch on anything else.
I think that there's lots of things that we're thinking about researching in the future, not just what's on here.
Yeah.
Okay, just to keep that in mind. So we're always open to hearing what you all want us to research on too. And we do have, we'll just send you the data. People that aren't on the committee will send you the data from them. My information from them. Matthews.
Is that readable? Just scroll.
Is that how you got your
It's not
class?
thing.
Yeah, that's how
Trying to
you get it,
do
wasn't it?
it,
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that, the way you put that.
I mean, you guys, went through it really thoroughly, but from a different perspective.
Yeah,
Someone will
yeah,
find
sometimes
something.
it's just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a few things.
And then you should be able to see it, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. And yeah, do you just want me to tell you when to advance or?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Whoever wants to
That will
take off. Just let me
All
know.
right. Cool. So to echo what Commissioner Miller stated, like, these are just preliminary responses for, and they're a representative sample. So by no means do we claim this is exhaustive. This is just a good start, right? And so any point in here that you want to hear more on, or you see something missing, that's good to suggest. When we get to recommendations, we have recommendations of things that this revealed to us that we need more done.
We did feel as a committee that this was ready to go to the council like this, so it doesn't need rework. So this portion of the annual report this is ready for that.
Absolutely. And with the acknowledgement I made that this isn't exhaustive, this is well-researched, right? So what we do present here, there's plenty that of quotes that we have, respondents that we're not touching on in the short report. So I know that you can read these for yourself, but I'm going to go ahead and read them so that we can understand the foundations of our approach for our committee, and indeed the community-based benefits to our committee as a whole moving forward. Though databases like the one that we accrued are necessarily limited, we collected background demographics, which I'll touch on later, and in order to distinguish the different voices that we heard, but also to reveal from what we didn't hear. And so, I'm gonna read the mission.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. So the mission is that as a research committee, we hope to gather data from minority community members, individuals who are disabled, and other marginalized community members. In partnership with the School of Social Work, we gathered critical information on what public safety means within this community. Primary concerns found within the community survey pertained to financial security, housing, law enforcement responses, and regulation and availability of community spaces, mental health resources, and substance use response and harm reduction. And again, that's what we identified initially. We recognize that many voices have been left out of this important government conversation. The mission of the committee is to bring those voices to light. During this segment of the research committee's work, 40 stakeholders were interviewed. Each one's identity will remain anonymous. And for the purpose, with the research presented today, we hope that other CAPS Commission committees can better understand what community members are saying about safety. So to hear their voices and the sentiments they're sharing. We also hope this can start a dialogue with the commission as a whole and other government bodies in discussing steps to addressing these concerns in multiple ways. We as the research committee are dedicated to serving and helping our community in having a voice to communicate their needs. We as the research committee will do so to the best of our abilities. And so for the demographics. So starting out, one of the primary important demographics that we gathered was in the race of who we were able. So as you can see, it's primarily white, but that doesn't mean that the composition of our community is primarily white or is much. So our next largest demographic was Black and African American respondents. and we identified Hispanic respondents, and then the rest were in the 2 or more races. And we'll touch on races that we want to hear more from in the end. And as far as gender identity, these were self-identified gender identities. So 2/3 were female, identified themselves as female, a quarter identified as male, but then 5% identified specifically as non-binary, and 2.6% didn't specify. In terms of age, and so this is in thinking about the way different issues affect different ages, we had a pretty good array. So in the 19 to 25, and so that captures also students, but also it contains non-students in that age range. That's 35.9%. In the 26 to 36%, and so that could be younger families, that's 20%. 37 to 47, that was about a quarter, and 50 plus, we only heard from about 17.9% of our respondents were in that range. Cool. In terms of housing status, and again, this is self-identified, 63.2% identified as renters, 13.2% were homeowners. 10.5% reported as unhoused, but 13.2% were unspecified. So those could fall into any of those categories or didn't feel they fell into those categories. So in terms of primary safety concerns identified, and we kind of mentioned this in the introduction, we have financial security, housing security, law enforcement responses, regulation and availability of community spaces, mental health resources, and substance use response and harm reduction. And these were just some glaring things we identified from what we heard from. So under the umbrella of financial security, we have food insecurity, job opportunities, low wages, affordable healthcare, and limited affordable housing options. And these were what they identified as issues that need to be addressed. So the first couple pull quotes from financial security, respondent 26 asked, do I have affordable housing? No. So identifying that even if it was coded as affordable housing, they disagreed. 27 mentioned that financial security was one of their top challenges. They're sleeping on the street with all of their belongings in a plastic bag. Right? So again, a representation of what's in our community. Some sub-issues are transitional housing, shelters, and barriers to housing, which include costs, availability of affordable, appropriate options, felonies, lack of credit, high rent deposits, and inadequate income. And so some of those last ones, right, like felony or lack of credit, is in a fine, but it can also carry forward, right? So even if they're approved for housing, it can give. So in terms of housing security, respondent 3 said their house is only affordable because they have a 2-income household, which suggests that more affordable housing options for single earner households need to be explored. Respondent number 6 said that I think more affordable housing would help with the overall safety of the community. So suggesting it's not only a concern for them, but in terms of building better neighborhoods. Respondent number 10 said the community needs more housing for low to moderate income individuals and families, transitional housing units, treatment facilities for substance use disorder, and mental health needs, both residential and outpatient. So identifying plenty of needs we can look into. In terms of police interactions, some subtopics are the fear of the police, and all fear, we want to state that all fear is justified and something we need to address, you know, and rather than just dismissing it as a perception. The second one is officers were reportedly friendly to some, but were ineffective in addressing the safety issues, and that came up a couple different various ways. So some quotes or some specific experiences we heard. Respondent 9 called the police to prevent their boyfriend from taking their child from their parents' home where the child was staying at the time. The boyfriend left before the police became involved, but the caller felt like the officers took the statement seriously, although they never followed up. Right, so they took down the statement, but didn't follow up the situation. Respondent 28 called the police in 2008 when their home was broken into. They said the police were not incredibly helpful, but acknowledged that there wasn't much for them to do since the person only stole loose change and some money. The respondent took the officer's advice in getting a security system. Respondent 7 reported being fearful of the police, saying, I wish I had another choice other than calling the police, but this is the only choice I have. I would be afraid to be harmed or seen as criminal. Right? So even though they were hesitant to pursue this, they felt this is the only choice they have. Respondent 8 said one police department is not enough first responders for a town this big. Talking about the limitations. And then one respondent didn't want to be on record, but wanted the sentiment shared that they just want the police to get out of the way. Right? Some additional safety concerns. One major one that came up in various ways was the regulation and availability of community spaces. So for instance, respondent 38 expressed the desire for having community living spaces where we could be self-supporting of each other. So rather than having to be regulated from outside, they want a better sense of community. Respondent 15 advocated for better separation of the campus community by campus police so that the Bloomington non-college community has plenty of safe spaces to go outside for children and families. So kind of a division or better regulation spaces as separate with the separate. So in terms of structural limitations, respondent 28 communicated a desire for more accessible public bathrooms in the city that can be used by anyone, with an emphasis on people experiencing homelessness. We've seen a slight increase of those, but certainly there's still an ongoing call for more accessible. And respondent 38 expressed their biggest issue is just finding a place to sleep, which is a sentiment we continue to hear. And so we continue to need to address it. Other forms of accessibility, respondent 11 stated that one of the biggest challenges is the sidewalks. The conditions of the sidewalks made it challenging for them to walk downtown feeling safe and like the infrastructure was accessible. They already have balance issues and they feel forced to use arcade in town, but it's still hard to use with all of the uneven surfaces. They stated that sidewalks are just horrible. You'd think that Bloomington would have more pride than to just let them get this bad. And so this was not somebody with extreme mobility issues. So people talk often that we need to make them accessible for wheelchairs, but even I, who don't have balance issues, have tripped and fallen several times over the past couple months because of that. So like, this is something we heard from various respondents. And then respondent 13 identified that a challenge was mental health and feeling safety involving stigma associated with dementia and being able to fully utilize the space of Bloomington. They said it seems like people have less kindness and wanting to help others. And I fear that if I get turned around or I'm taking longer to find the right words, that I will be criticized, treated badly, and not assisted. They don't like the usual difference in treatment they received after someone finds out they are living with dementia. And so in part, this is a need for more resources, but also a need for a better, more supportive culture. So definitely something we have to look into deeply. In terms of health resources, the response two spoke about the difficulty accessing health services, specifically health and mental health providers, who are often booked out for up to a year in advance. And so even if we do have the providers, we don't have the resources available. Respondent 9 spoke about domestic abuse and the lack of resources, saying that poor mental health resources makes them lack motivation to take the steps they feel necessary to leave their child's father. So just even knowing how to access helps them to create a plan. In terms of substance use responses and harm reduction, as on a broad scale, respondent 38 reported, I was a victim of a violent crime and was being taken to jail because they found drugs on me. So I didn't get help for being a victim and instead was harmed, right? And so this, right, to effectively help someone and not penalize them and give them safety when they need it. Respondent 9 said they have a past with substance abuse, so they don't trust the police to help them if they were in a dangerous situation. And so that resonates with the past we heard about calling the police and being fearful of what will happen. And so moving forward, these are our initial recommendations. Certainly we can recommend more and give resources to committees that have to work on those. So first is to continue to gather input from marginalized community members, right? So we identified some and we want to gather more from them, but also others that we have not heard from. While we have respondents represented from diverse communities, we believe that we still need to hear from more from underrepresented community members. So specifically, we identified that we need to hear from Asian American and Pacific Islander communities, especially considering some of the harms and safety issues in the Bloomington community. We didn't get information from them, and that's essential. Also, we believe more focused research on accessibility and the needs of our community members with disabilities should be conducted, both specific disabilities and in general. Going back to that idea of dementia and the culture of how somebody is treated before we know what's going on with them. Right? We recommend having 2 of our CAP seats filled by someone in the Asian American, Islanders, and Indigenous communities, and feel that that would be appropriate. So have voices not just in a survey, at the actual table, right? So focus groups could be helpful to gain a deeper understanding and more complete understanding of how to increase safety in Bloomington. So we know the history of focus groups is effective in concerns. Alternative approaches to safety that extend beyond policing should be explored with community members. So with the community members in order to find more anti-oppressive, anti-racist, and effective strategies. Connected to that, we also suggest that education should be provided to elected and governmental officials, but also community members on the of being anti-racist and employing effective strategies. So representation is important, but it's also important to get it in the community. And so that's all we have for our initial presentation. Thank you. And if you have any questions or concerns, we'll address those next.
I have some questions.
Yeah.
Is one of the demographics that you collected, if they are disabled, and if so, what the disability is, or anything about that?
I can answer that if you like. No, the questions that we formulated and sent out were somewhat vague in the end, the recommendation is to talk more to, and target people with disabilities. The question, we had that would just, they were answering a set of questions and they may or may not have wanted to answer that particular question. We worked with the data that we could.
Okay, thanks. And how were the people, respondents selected? Some more information on that, the 40 respondents.
So obviously we're keeping the companies private and anonymous, but it was through the IU School of Social Work. They have a practicum program in their senior year. And so multiple students are sent to different areas all within the Bloomington community. And they're required to take Danielle's class. So they were then given the opportunity. They typically do a similar project, but they used our questionnaire that we developed with Danielle and would get the company's approval and then would select the member from there.
And to add, I think that the IU students asked, is there someone who would like to be interviewed? So I don't think it was really selective, like, hey.
Review specifically.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
it was, it's definitely preliminary, like it wasn't randomly sampled to see
Right,
how many
right.
people were gonna sample from each location. We just tried to get, I think every student completed at least one, so.
And it was really neat to see the responses. There's a lot of data, there's a lot of data in there. They can be looked at, so.
It's also one of the reasons that one of our recommendations is focus groups, right? Because we could be more purposeful in who's included in this one.
So, and if I remember from when I was on the research committee, these companies are specifically service providers to people experiencing
Anything.
what?
Yeah.
So it's.
Homelessness, recovery.
It's, so for social workers, it's any, they can be placed at any community or any
So it's
organization.
under the
that
broad
has a
social work category. Okay.
So for all the way from, different, assisted living, like nursing, like homeless community, but also food and policy and anything in the realm of social work. If a social worker works there, it's possible
Okay.
that we get practice.
So it's probably pretty broad, hopefully,
That was just kind of our goal with
like
Partnering
partnering
with that.
companies and stuff. Okay, cool. And are you all continuing to work with Danielle's class another semester? Do we plan to repeat this same, thing or?
We're getting through this particular annual report, and we'll be discussing more. We haven't
Yeah.
decided.
Mhm.
We haven't decided an answer to
Okay.
the question.
And, and I know we probably maybe haven't got a chance to look, to compare yet, but did you look to see how the demographics compare with the census? To know how how, how the community of marginalized people might be different or similar to our census data?
Yes and no, not a lot.
Because that could give us some important data as far as racial equity.
Yeah, this is
As
just
far as equity.
looking.
So I look forward to helping with that when you guys share the data.
You can spread out the data for your committee and just
Cool.
look at that and go from there too. I think it'll be very interesting.
And then as far as following up on your recommendations, so I think we've discussed a few times, like in general, having some signature programs out of the CAPS commissions. And it seems like, before launching something like that, we would want to do this sort of thing with focus groups and, you know, more like public outreach. And so, I would suggest that we take these recommendations and carry these forward and develop them into like a plan for the rest of this year in order to conduct I would say like public town hall type events. You could say focus groups, but you could even have one and have breakout sessions for the different areas. You know, you could have a housing track and whatever, or, you know, like a recovery track, or you could do them on different days, but it might be easier to do them on one and bring them together like a facilitated kind of event. And like that sort of thing could possibly then be used to home in the specific programming recommendations, the anti-oppressive, anti-racist, and effective strategies, right? Because I mean, clearly, like, we can't just say, you need to learn this stuff. We need to give them, we need to, you know, make more specific recommendations.
There's also other ideas that we have that we'd like. So we'll be doing that too, but I like that idea a lot. I do.
Talk about that later in the agenda.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I
that
mean,
would
that's
be great.
something that, I mean, I wouldn't even consider that necessarily just a research committee thing. The whole commission would
Yeah, it
work
sounded
on
like the whole commission.
a town hall event, but I just wanted to mention, it sounds like a lot of our commission work or committee work is starting to align toward that.
Mhm.
And so it's certainly something that, you know, we shouldn't try to silo out, but,
Right.
you know, work together.
Agreed.
But yeah, I don't know if her class could even help with that, if it's something we did in the fall.
And then,
If she might be able to consult with us on, for instance, how to facilitate an event like that. You know, that could be really helpful.
so she said she's finished with this, and participating in this. That was what she told me. So, I wish.
Also, she's not
I
gonna
wish.
work with our commission again in the fall?
So she wouldn't be able to in the fall.
She won't be able to.
Because of the courses that she's.
Oh, right,
teaches.
so it's once a year.
Yeah, it'd be, and obviously, a year from now, we don't know how that's gonna be.
Yeah.
And
She is a
we
good-
also don't know if she'll be in that program. So we just don't know enough to be able to
Yeah.
put that into the public.
But as
Well, we
for
would
like
probably
reaching out to
make it
her and
work.
just using her more just like to her, you know, because she is a social worker, she does have experience, she's welcome
Right.
always to come and have public comments
Yeah.
or anything like that.
And absolutely. And I did notice that there's something on our agenda, the IU Start program, where collaboration might be in that realm of red zone. So that might be helpful, like in the way you're talking about too.
Yeah, I would suggest that if we were gonna do an event like that, like the ideal timing would probably be for us to do like our back research during the summer, what's left of it, and then bigger events like September, October, those tend to be the months when you can get people in this town to come to events. If you get it to November, December, they're all gonna have excuses not to come. And, so yeah, that's just my suggestion. And then if we had events during those times, then we would have November, December, January, analyze, make recommendations, report. So my only last question, sorry for so many questions. Besides what you've got in here as far as the recommendations, are there any more specific recommendations that you wanted to add to the annual report on behalf, like for the general, that you thought the CAPS Commission should make in general? But I think you laid out pretty, this is basically what you agreed
I
on.
think we want to fine tune what we want to work on in addition to before we wrap to the public. Because we have some really good ideas on research, but we haven't fine tuned those ideas enough to want to share those with the council yet.
Now, as for like, these are the recommendations for research specifically, I definitely
Right.
think,
Yes.
when are we doing our annual,
July 20th.
Okay, yeah.
Soon,
15 days, so.
yeah, 15 days.
As for like, I think the commission as a whole should definitely, even if we have the email, since I know we were kind of messed up on scheduling from last from having to
Yeah.
cancel. But I definitely think we all should come up with full cast commission recommendations, because I've got 1,000,000,001 ideas.
And it's on the agenda to discuss that later, so
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to derail the meeting. I'm done with questions.
I can tell you that I'd like to add that when we were looking at the data, it was important to pull back my own thoughts about what I was reading
Mhm.
when I was reading the respondent, because there was, what was it, respondent number 8, I think, that said that there was only one police department, not enough first responders for a town this big. So that respondent obviously doesn't know that we have 6 responding police entities in Bloomington County, 6. So we have lots. And that respondent didn't know, but it was important to include their quote, not my thought on the subject, like, well, they just need to know. So it's important when we're hearing from the public to not skew what their words are and their thoughts are.
All right, so we can, if you all are okay to move on, we can move on. Alternatives to Policing Committee. Do you guys have anything to report?
I can go ahead and speak for that committee since, Alex is out. Yes, we have, chosen, 4, I think, alternative policing programs that are within the US. One of them, I think 3 are existing, one of them is just a detailed like report and recommendation for setting one up. And these were actually all informally approved by Alex Vitale, the author of End of Policing as well. I ran the list by him and he said that these are perfect. He actually added one more because we had the ones that we had. So yeah, and we've decided basically to take a timeline that, the timeline like that we were just, that I was just suggesting for like the commission as a whole to take as far as doing public outreach, as far as spending the summer, doing first the detailed like research on best practices, and then spending a couple of months doing public outreach with all the key stakeholders, and then following it up with detailed plans and recommendations for January. And yeah, we have another meeting to meet. Hopefully, it's down to 3 of us now. It went from 5 to 3 commission members. And so we're open to taking new members as well. And but yeah, it's going strong. I think the 3 of us that are on the commission plan to continue doing all the research that we had planned to do before when there was 5 people. So it's going strong. Anything to add, Commissioner Brown Sparks?
Just what you said, we're really looking into things and it's really positive, and there are people in the community that want to work with us, so I think it's going to turn out okay.
And for housing, I know that we are trying to set up a meeting. From the way my schedule is currently, I may have to withdraw from the housing committee. I'm just not able to give it 100% and I give nothing half. So I know that you all were discussing a time to meet and trying to find a date.
Co-chair.
Yeah, so, you know, a lot on my plate.
So are you officially stepping away from
I am,
it?
I'm officially, I'll put that on the record, I apologize. So I'm officially stepping away from the housing committee,
So
which is right with it.
who's remaining on that committee now?
So I believe that it's,
Anna.
you're on it too. Okay, is it
Okay.
it's Commissioner Mann?
I'm on it.
Commissioner Brown
Brown
Sparks,
Sparks.
and I believe Commissioner Mann is on it too, isn't he?
I don't remember.
My computer.
So, three of us that are present, myself, Commissioner Michaela, and Commissioner Brown Sparks, would one of us want to take the initiative to be the new committee chairperson unofficially to set up meetings and schedule meetings?
So is it just, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get it clear, is it Michaela, Brown Sparks, and Brown only on that committee?
That's
Well,
what
those
I've
are the
got.
only ones
Okay.
that are here now. I don't know if Alex is.
He was
Yeah,
not.
he's not.
Okay.
Thank you.
That was my mistake.
Would anyone like to volunteer to take over as far as scheduling meetings? For the housing committee?
Do that. I was like,
All right, Commissioner Michaelik is the new unofficial chair and facilitator of the housing committee.
so I'll
Do we
watch
need to
that.
vote on? I don't think we need to vote.
Fine.
That's something
So
you
you'll-
do,
you'll
that's
be back
something you do in
on
committee, not as a commissioner of the whole. So you guys figure that stuff out.
Okay, so, for staff, membership updates?
Yes, I believe you all are aware Commissioner Bury resigned from the full commission, and we've had some changes to the committee membership. We've notified the clerk's office of the vacancy. If they haven't already, they'll be sending out a press release to the local media to advertise both that vacancy and there are 3 other vacant seats. So it's not unique to this commission that it's been difficult to find applicants. So if you all know of any interested folks, please encourage them to apply. If they have questions on applying or what it entails, they're welcome to reach out to the council office. You all know what it entails. Now that we've got kind of a regular meeting schedule, at least for commission meetings, that might make it easier for folks to commit to attending a monthly meeting that's on a set Tuesday each month. So there are 4 open seats. We've got 7 commissioners still serving, so you all can continue to meet. That changes the number that we have to have here in person to hold the meeting. So we now have to have four members in person each time we meet. And then depending on the committee, that changes as well. So that's the update there. The council members who appoint members or who recommend appointing members to the commission are aware of the vacancies. So hopefully they're going to be quick to review them and get folks. And I appreciated your recommendation on some folks you thought who might be good for the commission to look to. So that's the update on the membership status. I'll have a few more things to say on the report when we get there, but that's all I've got for now unless there are questions.
Chairs, may I ask a question about what he was just saying?
Yes.
Thank you. Could we possibly write a letter as a commission as a whole to the council suggesting that we, if we're all in agreement, I know 4 of us were on the committee, so I know us 4, to suggest that they hold those seats for some other demographics.
Yes, I think you all could suggest that they look to certain demographics for seats. If you want to include it in the annual report, I'd be.
And even possibly reach out and
Yeah.
do some reaching out and not looking for people that are necessarily economically sound.
Yeah,
Because when we're talking about economically sound people, then that leaves another layer of
yes, you could reach out to the council members. The clerk's office actually handles the press release and kind of outreach. So if you all want them, we can copy them and maybe they can reach out to specific organizations with the folks you're looking to reach, or just trying to think of how they could do, we kind of, this question when the commission was forming, how do you reach the folks that aren't normally included in groups like this? So,
We did it, didn't we?
yeah, if you have ideas on who to contact or where to reach out, I know the clerk's office, the council members would be open to that, so. Yes,
Thank you. So is everybody okay with that? That's here to do that?
Doing what?
To, asking the council to maybe hold those seats for, other demographics besides what we already have. So other voices are at the table. At
So
least,
that means asking them to like turn down like any existing applicants in case they get them and hold them.
We have what, 4 seats?
we have 4 seats, so it's probably not likely that they'll have to. I think the idea is to reach out and try to get other demographics.
Okay, because that's different than holding the seats for.
Yeah, I did say
You
that.
did say that.
I did
a
say
couple
that.
times, yeah.
Yeah, I did. Although I'd love to have them hold it, I don't think they legally can.
Yeah.
I mean, we might just run out of people on the committee if we ask them.
I don't think we're allowed to do that by law. We're not enough from the
More just like
national-
outreach to the communities that don't reach.
You mean just additional outreach to particular communities?
Yes, correct.
And are you suggesting that we do that in a letter, or are you suggesting, as Steven suggested, in putting it in the annual report?
I would suggest that we just write the council a letter and email it to them. We've got a letterhead I made for the CAPS Commission, we can use that. And then we could all sign it. Suggest and make that suggestion.
You mentioned that there's gonna be a media, a press release soon, so we can just,
If there hasn't been already, the clerk's office should be working on that. So the level of formality you want to go to is up to you all. I can certainly just talk to the clerk's office and mention, the members had some sentiment to reach out to this group. I think that's the way to frame it. I don't know about reserving a seat for a specific demographic. We were able to do
That's
that.
fine too.
But if you all have ideas, specific ideas on, hey, reach out to this group, certainly passing that along would be helpful. It's just a general sense of, hey, look how you can reach out to these demographics.
Right.
That could work. It could email, it could be part of the annual report. It sounds like the research committee is making that recommendation. So
Yeah, that's already in that.
there may not be much, the council members are, a lot of them are taking a break in the coming weeks. So the council's first meeting back is actually when you're presenting your annual report. So I'd be surprised if they were able to fill all 4 seats that quickly. So there may be some time. So how you want to have info along is up to you.
I personally am okay with you mentioning it, and then maybe we could also follow up with an email to council. Doesn't have to be super formal, but maybe we could still follow up with it and kind of pair with that. If we feel like we need to, I don't know. Following up, it's always good with the council. They listen.
or you mentioned it, you can even just add the annual report, when you're reporting that part, you can say, we hope you received not even email, but like, we hope that was communicated with you beforehand. Just kind of like a small little comment on it while you're reading that part. of the
I don't
report.
know if.
Or whoever.
I don't know if
Yeah.
it'll be before or later. Because it sounded like Stephen just said, good point, it's a good idea, but Stephen just said that they're coming back from, so they might have not read any much, because they're gonna get flooded probably, aren't they, with catch-up work?
Probably.
I don't
So
really
what are
know.
the particular communities that we're asking Steven to ask them to target? The ones listed here, disabled and Asian American.
Yes.
Pacific Islanders and Indigenous, those three.
Can I add one? What
What's
about, the Muslim American community?
I was thinking that too, yeah, I think
Yeah, I
that'd be
think
important to add.
Yeah,
And
they're definitely, that's on the radar, yes.
Like, we're not being specific, we're not saying like hey, you guys need to add these people in who's. I do think it's important that like, especially like, we're talking about the Muslim American community, like
Yes,
going to, you know, community spaces
Mhm.
where they are rather than saying, you know, just in a press release on something that, you know.
right, or just calling
Yeah, it's
your,
really
or
easy to
just
find
calling your
Muslims
one
in town,
token,
just like
I'm
us.
sorry, I shouldn't use that word. Or calling your one person you know that fits in that category and asking them, because that one person is tired of being asked.
Yeah.
Yeah. that's true.
I mean, there's a lot of other communities we could include. I mean, they kind of,
It's
right?
true, but this, yeah,
Which
this is
is on the
just,
founding thing of the commission as well. I mean, it mentions disabled in our commission. charter, so
and there, that's in here.
supposedly already.
Brown Stars is like, yes, I'm here.
I'm sitting here like listening to you all discuss the fact that you need to find somebody disabled. And I'm,
Oh, I mean, I think lots of us may be disabled.
I think lots of us are disabled, not
The
just,
idea
not
is to
just
get-
you, dear.
Is to get more, but yeah,
Yes,
I'm not
and-
sure how effective it'll be to just ask them to get more marginalized voices, since that's what they're already supposedly doing. But
So
maybe
what
if we
we
have
know
more
is-
specific recommendations for how they could do recruiting, perhaps. Rather than just like, hey, find more disabled people, maybe giving them more concrete suggestions of how they think they
And
might.
there's a quite a few suggestions that I would suggest that the communities that they go into. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it's there, it's visible. You just have to be willing to speak to that group of people.
Mhm. And we were talking about the respondents, and then also, we were talking about the respondents we want to target for the focus groups. And
Were
that's
you ready to say
specifically.
something, Steve?
Just on the logistical side of things, it's probably more helpful, or is at least more clear if you all say, hey, email this group, or
Yes.
go visit this group
Yeah.
and take paper applications so that if somebody wants to fill one out.
Yeah.
Specifics like that where we're reaching the audiences that you all have in mind,
Yes.
that's helpful. Commissioner Ratzong is right that in the section of code that established this commission, it calls for appointments to be made, or folks from different communities are encouraged to apply in lists, all sorts of.
It did leave out a few communities we could suggest to add maybe a few to the list, and maybe.
And this was just the
specific.
beginning, and this was just the beginning of it, so.
And I'll say, it took a while to form the commission. It's probably not going to be in the next,
Exactly.
2 or 3 weeks where all of the seats are filled. So if you all want to think about how you're going to approach this, you've got some time. Just wanted to let you know, the wheels are in motion, hopefully to encourage folks to apply if you have other specific ideas on who else we can encourage. We sent a press release out, but that may not reach the folks that.
That's needed.
Are we assuming we don't have any Muslim people at the table already?
Is that what that?
I mean,
Are we
I
making an
have a
assumption?
Muslim family background. I wasn't assuming anything. I was just pointing out that if we're gonna suggest that they add new groups, for instance, religious minorities aren't even mentioned on that charter.
Yeah.
And there's some other groups that aren't mentioned, including neurodiversity. So, no,
Which is-
I wasn't assuming no one else, no
Okay,
one's Muslim.
And I
Very good.
think it's important that we're not just trying to find like the token person. That's why like Brown
Thank you.
Sparks, we recognize your disability, and I think it's important for us not to be like, where's our disabled member? Because none of us have to disclose if we have disabilities, and none of us are that one token person on the committee with, a disability. I think that it's important that we're just hoping that we can get more and more voices of all the intersects that exist in Bloomington. There's not enough seats for that.
Right,
But
there's
we want
not.
to keep pushing for as many intersects as we can.
And we're not looking for optics, we're looking for perspectives.
Yes.
Right? So even though we're not self-disclosing, right? I haven't brought up that I have a neurological malformation,
Yes.
but I'm pulling from that perspective when I speak. Right? And so even on the back end, we want to be sure that we're trying to include as many perspectives.
Yeah, I suspect we have more
More
going on, more
intersections.
intersections than then we choose to talk about it, and that's okay. And we don't have to be forced to or pressed to. We all came here.
So
for reasons.
with time, so I see we're at 6:13. Do we want to see if we have any reports from the public or public comment by the public?
That'd be great before we take a break.
You have one member of the public, Mr. Shelton. Yes. Just a second. Should be able to unmute.
Hi, Jim Shelton, with the chamber, but just observing your meetings. I mostly interact with the county, and I just want to recommend that you realize that the whole justice system, besides the LEOs, are in the county, and they have a criminal justice study that they're responding to. And I just recommended to them that they ought to talk to you and get sort of coordinate with what you're doing to what they're thinking about doing. Otherwise, we're going to end up, uncoordinated, and you're going to have a whole lot of the public safety issues not being addressed. And then, of course, their law enforcement officers aren't necessarily going to respond to what you guys are going to come up with. So just recommend you start talking to Margie Rice, who's now sort of serving as their coordinator, if you will, or maybe with the commissioners, and start factoring them into what you guys are thinking about. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Shelton.
Oh, can I just, say something? Oh, yeah, and, on the alternative policing commission anyway, we actually are planning to do a pretty comprehensive public outreach, Jim, that would include the local law enforcement agencies and get them at the table, at least to hear their views before suggesting any kinds of programming. So we do have a fairly systemic, we do have a pretty rigorous plan in place, at least on that, at least on the alternative policing agenda, as far as gathering input from key stakeholders. That's what we mean by key stakeholders. But thank you for that, and we do definitely will appreciate the recommendation, the introduction from you to whoever you think would be the best key person to contact. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, I think research committee would be a good place for that also, because it's gonna, also cover that, need to collect data from them. So thank you for that, Mr. Sheldon. I've got Margie's name written down. I think I've met her actually.
Yes, and then if we can just do it, maybe a 5-10 minute break. Actually need to take care of a question matter. So yeah, 5 to 10 minutes, and we'll be back about 6:25-ish.
So we're going to go to
Is that okay with the commission to get everything done? It should. I don't think we would need all the way up to 7. But
I'll suggest that of the remaining agenda items, the annual report to council is the most pressing.
Okay.
Given that that's coming up in just over 2 weeks. So figure.
True.
Yeah.
Some truth to that.
So if we can at least get to that item tonight.
okay.
I'll just start planning.
We can also make a motion to extend 15 minutes or 5.
I
or
feel
whatever.
like we should, because I know we cut out 6:30 before, but 17
Doesn't seem to be sticking out.
6:30
in time. I just have to go finish painting my deck.
Okay, so we are back in session. And our next agenda item is the unfinished business. So I see that we are talking about updating the bylaws as far as co-chair rotation and commissioner attendance. Is this something that we need to address today, or do we want to move it?
So I just want to make a statement about bylaws. So
Yes.
I'm now the only person, me and Man, are the only people that haven't gone yet.
Okay.
So I think it's assumed that unless we get new commissioners, like, we'll just go next. Do we need to update the bylaws for that? Because I'm thinking like, we originally talked about no repeats, but after we go, we won't have any, wait, not repeat.
If I think
This
that,
is part of the conversation.
I think that the rotation is good, and this is why. And maybe we can update later. It's good for all of us to get to see what being a chair or a co-chair involves, to see if that's something that we can fully commit ourselves to, not only learn something. I'll say for myself, will be my first time like chairing a commission. So it's the learning experience will be good. And then maybe once we go around to the rotation to Commissioner and Commissioner Ford, to see, maybe we can put it into, you know, right, that chance to get the experience. But that's just my personal opinion.
Thank you. It also depends on how many people are on the commission. So if we just have rotation, so it sounds like we are going to discuss it briefly.
Yes.
And I know that there were some recommendations, and that was one of them. I like that recommendation that way. Know who's going to be doing it.
Yes. I agree. So, do we need to make a vote to continue the rotations every 3 months?
So
I can make a motion that we put into our bylaws that we are going to have rotating chairs, and the rotation is going to be every 3 months.
So-
And that,
sorry, go in the packet or the
Yeah,
last page of
it
the
should be
agenda.
there.
If we're going to talk, I can go through these relatively quick. These
There you
are
go.
3 very simple
Yeah.
bylaws. The first 2 are dealing with attendance and kind of just restate what's already in the municipal code. So the first bylaw here says local includes the attendance requirements for commissioners, members, meaning commission members should give prior notice to either the commission chairperson or persons or council office if they're unable to attend a regular or special meeting. So that's just so that we can spot any quorum issues or issues under the electronic meeting rules. Removal of members, this bylaw kind of mirrors local. It says a member removed for cause includes failure to attend consecutive regular meetings in any 12-month period. And if a member meets those criteria, the commission may add to its next meeting agenda a recommendation for removal. And again, the appointing authority, so in this case, the council, that would actually take the action of removing a member, but this bylaw would says that you all might add to an agenda that you're recommending the removal of a member who hasn't attended for 3 consecutive meetings. And again, this kind of mirrors local code. So those 2 are really not new. Those are under local code, but it kind of spells them out more explicitly.
and for clarity, this is for the commission as a whole meetings,
Correct.
not the committee meetings.
Correct. The last one here, selection of chairperson, I'll just read it. The commission, it would say the commission shall select a member to serve as chairperson or may select, so it doesn't lock you into having co-chairs. If you don't have 2 folks that want to serve in a rotation, you can select one, or you may select 2 members to serve as co-chairs. Members selected to serve as chairperson will serve for 3 months. At the last regular meeting before the term of the current chairperson or persons is ended, the commission shall select a new chairperson or new co-chairs. Members selected to serve as chairperson can't serve more than a term, so you have to sit out at least 1 3-month rotation. So that's what it says. If you all want to formalize these rules, you can vote and approve this tonight. If you don't approve this tonight, you can still do it as a matter of practice, just informally. It's really up to you. But this bylaw would then exist beyond your term. So if you all step off the commission or aren't reappointed or the membership changes, this bylaw will carry forward. And a new commissioner, new members would have to change it. So,
I'd like to clarify that. because, we don't, we've seen recently what happens when you don't codify things. But there, into that discussion. I was speaking on Roe v. Wade, so.
Yeah.
We got you. We
So I would make a motion to pass this.
I second it.
So we've got a second, so what we do is
vote. Okay. So, so are there any objections to this? I'm sorry, are there any objections to the proposed bylaws? No, okay, so the motion has been passed. Am I reading that right? Okay, perfect. Thank you guys.
seeing none, yeah.
All right, so for our annual report, yeah, 2 questions there. Who will present in finalizing language for the report?
And just a quick update. So the commission's report is scheduled and confirmed for the July 20th meeting of council. You all will have up to 20 minutes. I think they want, since this is the first time this commission is reporting, they wanted you all to have the full amount of time. So reports from boards and commissions are typically limited to 20 minutes. Sometimes we schedule 2 commissions for the same number, 3 to 1. We have up to 20 minutes. After that, the council may have questions, so that won't count against your time. Necessarily have to go the full 20 minutes, but you can. And there are written materials you'd like to include. Council is having those ahead of time, so the packet for the July 20th meeting is going out July 15th. If you have any written materials to include on that date, we can include it in the packet. If it's not finalized, we can really send it out and provide it anytime up. So even if we'll post a packet addendum with any reports or written materials you'd like to include. So just send those, if you have any, send those to the council office. We'll distribute them as either in the packet on July 15th or at any point after that up until the meeting. Just logistics, you all should finalize who's going to be presenting the report and then authorizing them or providing a mechanism for them to finalize any language and any written materials, given that this is the last meeting. So I know there's been a draft report that folks have been working on, so that's my recommendation.
For the sake of scheduling, do we have another research committee meeting scheduled?
I don't think we have one officially scheduled.
Yeah, I don't see one on my search. Oh, yes, I do. Tuesday, the 12th at 5.
I have it here too. Yes. Okay. All right. I was like,
But it wasn't just me.
Yes. I know I had something. So is there anyone that would like to present?
Did you get that, Steve?
Oh.
Sorry, that was a research committee meeting on July 12th.
Yes, at 5.
I would like to offer to continue finalizing the report that I've started on behalf of the commission.
Yeah, I think you'll do good with implementing our report and with your finalizing.
Okay, as far as presenting, I'm going to say not it, and this is why. I'm currently taking a public speaking class, and I suck. So maybe.
Maybe, yeah. There you go. I think we had narrowed it down that Commissioner Bailick is going to present the research portion of the annual report. And are you gonna have other sections of the report, breakdowns, where maybe another person could also participate? We're gonna have to get ours down a little bit on time.
I was gonna suggest it doesn't necessarily have to be one person.
Right, that's what you had said before, and I was really happy to hear that, because that's great.
I would,
Sorry.
What time is the report?
The meeting will start at 6:30. Reports are at the top of the agenda. They're not quite the first thing on the agenda. There's minutes, which is quick. Reports from council members comes before reports from boards and commissions. So sometimes themselves will report on things, but then it's you all. So.
The third agenda item, basically, third agenda item.
It should be.
Commissioner Brown Sparks, did you have a comment?
are we allowed to nominate people to present?
Look at you putting us in the hot seat.
You can do whatever you want, I mean, you have a voice.
I know, okay, we'll go ahead and move on.
I would hope there'd be a volunteer or volunteers.
Yeah, I think we're asking for volunteers first.
We'll go ahead.
Did you want to do it? Commissioner Brown Sparks, are you volunteering to do part of it?
Oh,
Well, I was just asking.
So I cannot, because I will have my son that night, so I don't think they want a 2-year-old, 3-year-old now.
I would hope that we can all be there,
Yeah.
even if we have other obligations like in the background, so we
Yeah.
can all show a presence. That would be really nice if we can. I mean, I know there's scheduling conflicts. Are you still volunteering to do this segment?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
I think you did a really nice job.
In terms of, I can't make, even if I wanted to be there, I couldn't make it because I have class. That night.
Well, you'll have to watch the recording.
Yes.
So, Commissioner Routsong, I've heard other folks back out. Are you?
Oh, yeah. And able to present any part of the report
And I will say
on behalf of
the
the commission.
written report that you all are putting together can be more detailed than any report you present to council, so you can synthesize as needed. The oral report you provide can just be a brief summary and refer to the written report. So it's really how you'd like to present the information. I don't mean to put you all on the spot and say you've got to have a 20-minute presentation. It can be a very brief presentation with all the detail contained in writing. It's really up to you all. You all are certainly welcome to attend on July 20th. Like I said, the meeting starts at 6:30. I'm hoping we'll get to this report pretty quickly. I don't think there should be too many other items before you. Before I forget, I know this is slightly off topic. I wanted to put this on your calendar. The city departmental budget hearings are coming up the last week of August 29th through September 1st. I believe the Tuesday of that week, August 30th, includes budget presentations from the public safety departments of police and fire.
You said August 29th through what?
August 29th through September 1st. So those 4 nights are scheduled to be departmental budget hearings.
Okay.
They're broken up over the 4 nights. Tuesday is police and fire. So I don't know that last year during the budget process, this was just a couple months into the commission existing. So
Do we get a minute or 2 in there? I think that's a valid question.
they're typically, I'm trying to, I believe there is a comment period on each department's budget. So if you all, ahead of those meetings, have reviewed, so the departments right now are working on putting their budgets together.
Okay.
they're going to present their proposed budgets to the council in August, in the last week of August. Council asks questions at those hearings, takes public comment. So if you've reviewed the budget ahead of those meetings and have comments to make at that time, you can certainly make them. But even after those departmental hearings, if you have feedback, there's work that goes on between those hearings and when the budget's finalized. So I just wanted to put it on your radar. You all have questions about how the budgets are organized, formulated, where you can find that info. I'm happy to point you in the right direction. But I know we're coming up. Doesn't have to be the last, chance for you to provide feedback on what's happening in the city.
So we're not on the agenda with police and fire, so we don't have a seat at the table on that day, on that Tuesday.
Each department head presents their proposed budgets. Council asks questions. There are no built-in opportunities for any boards and commissions to comment, but there's a comment period, 1, 2. And sometimes we do have members from boards and commissions, certainly from the public, who come and speak at that time.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so have we came to a conclusion for the annual report meeting?
But that any finalizing, final language for the annual report, that I could receive that by July 11th, to have it in the report by the 15th, or to send it to Stephen by the 15th.
Have you already changed the stuff we suggested and we started making suggestions on?
Yeah, I think whatever revisions we made in that meeting, I sent out already. I think I sent it out to everyone.
Okay, could you resend it, please?
Yeah, I'll try to find mine.
You can find it, if you can find it.
And then also, you mentioned earlier having like recommendations like from the whole CAPS commission. I can't remember. We already have those in there? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, there are some recommendations at the end that we compiled. And I was hoping for more like specific to the commission or committee's recommendation. So it looks like the committee made them really specific ones. So that's great. So the ones that we had on the board were more formal recommendations rather than like programmatic recommendations. Well, all of them are, I think, they're all formal. They're all like, we would suggest that you treat commissioners in a certain way, or now it looks like we're going to suggest, or maybe we're not going to add it to the report because you want to do it in a separate letter, but that we're going to define commissioners in a certain way, or, but those are kind of formal recommendations. We didn't have any substantive, didn't have any what I would call like, programming recommendations. So far, and we have got organized into committees, and then we basically were reporting on what we had planned to do in the committee.
And we've done a lot. I think we've come a long way from the very beginning, so.
I said to Commissioner Russell,
Sometimes
my colleague, I wanted to say thank you. You all, Commissioner Mann, I know he's not here. You all have done a lot of work. So I wanted to express my appreciation, the county's appreciation for you all volunteering your time, taking on this important work. So I know you all work very hard, and say thank you. So let me know if you two are going to be there to present and you're going to be finalizing the written report. Let me know how I can help.
I suggest on the finalizing, before you two present, that maybe you practice together, and I would be more than happy to listen as a person just listening to get what I heard.
An audience member.
Yes, an audience member. And I just think that's always a really good idea.
And if you'd like to come into the council chambers to practice in the actual room, you're welcome to do that. Just get a hold of me and we can find a good time that works. The room's empty, so.
I know we did that with just this portion. And
Yeah. It was helpful to hear it.
It was helpful.
Yeah. All right, so new business, ideas for signature commission.
So I should have mentioned this earlier. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to. So I know these are two of business.
We can move it to our next meeting.
I'd request rolling these over to old business for the next regular meeting, which is later in July, I believe, since this is the rescheduled June meeting.
Yeah.
So
we can to our business that this year, we can move it to our meeting later this month, which is July.
Looking up that date, could I make a motion that we add, or could I recommend that we also add Roe v. Wade recommendation that the office do not prosecute anything for Roe v. Wade? About it next meeting. I recommend the prosecutor's office.
July 26th is the next scheduled meeting, and I've got a note for the.
Wasn't that what we were talking about?
Yeah, and I have more to touch on that.
Yeah, we also
Obviously,
do.
We'll
We
talk
have lots
about
of
it next meeting. And then also, kind of do other than this kind of stuff, the schedule for Tuesday at 5 is not gonna work out with me in August. And all the months following after it, I will be in classes literally all day on Tuesdays.
So we need to look at the availability spreadsheet again.
Yeah,
Okay.
which is unfortunate, because I know we finally just got into like the set.
After August,
That is in August.
in August, when is your,
My first class is literally the first day of the meeting, or the meeting.
okay. What's good days for you before we, what's good days for everyone? What days work for everyone? Do you have that spreadsheet?
Do we want to maybe send that spreadsheet back out to maybe give people
Yeah, and
time
then
to
we talked about in
analyze?
July,
Could you do that, Steve?
Yes.
later July meeting.
Please.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we
ask
can-
a lot.
No, that's fine. I'd rather than try to figure that out on the fly right now. We can send that.
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
And then we'll add that to our July 26th meeting, and then we can figure that out. And by then, as a suggestion or just a request for everybody to have that form filled out again, that way we can just kind of see what works for everyone.
So we can actually have an August meeting.
Yes,
Good idea.
I really
Yes.
appreciate it.
I mean,
Well, thanks.
maybe
for doing it
sooner
now and not
if possible.
later.
Yeah, I was like, I need to do it this meeting because in July, I know.
yeah, because I'm starting classes back up too, so I agree 100%. So maybe if we can get back to each other within like the next 2 weeks, I would say have the form filled out within the next 2 weeks. if
Well,
that's
our next meeting is on the 26th.
Yes,
So
well,
we have to have it filled out by then.
yes, we do. Okay, so maybe a week.
I mean, it's 6.
Yeah, because I know, I'm really putting that out there for myself, because I would totally flake it and forget
You
it.
know I'm gonna remind you. If I don't see it on there,
I appreciate
I'll remind just about anybody.
it. You know my brain. So yeah, that's, that's it with that. And then we talked about, we don't have any other business. We talked about our future agenda. So does anybody want to make a motion to adjourn? We don't have anything else?
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second, it's good.
All right. I will see you all, research committee next week.
So if you two want to